Good evening and welcome everyone to this very interesting topic that we have for discussion this evening. This is a Suvichar think tank discussion, and we have with us General VP Malik, former Chief of Army Staff, a decorated soldier, the pride of the country, and an author of books, also the hero of the Kargil War. We recently observed the Kargil Day, and a celebrated speaker and orator. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Vivek. Thank you. And Jai Hind to everyone who's on our webinar today.
And we have with us Mr. Vipin Pappi, who's a celebrated journalist, a former editor of the Indian Express. He is now advising Shulini University, which is in Solan. Welcome, Vipinji.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So, just to set the context and set the ball rolling, I must say that we are in tough times, and tough times test the best of people and best of men and women and societies. And Suvichar Think Tank has been, for the last few years, pondering over issues which face our society, which we need to improve in India, especially in the northern region. And we have been debating on topics like this for quite a while now. We have got some young thinkers also in our debate sessions. We have held events in schools and colleges where our eminent speakers from Suvichar, as well as young minds, have been applying themselves to topics like sports, like urban management, like drugs, like various other things like road safety and education. Now, this time we find that it is important for us to talk about what society should do when faced with a crisis. And obviously, a pandemic is a crisis. A pandemic is something which is sweeping the world at this time, and people don't really know how to react. Basically, the world has been caught off guard. And from March to July to August now, we have been basically in our shells, wondering what to do next. Some people have, it seems, with everybody out on the road now, in the Punjabi manner, if I can just take a moment to say a lighter thing. When the graph has been increasing, everybody says mitti pao, which means ke haan ji chalo ab to ho gaya jo hona tha. But it doesn't seem that that is the answer to our problems. We have to be disciplined, we have to be resilient, we have to be united. And if I may set the ball rolling before I request Vipinji to give his opening thoughts, and thereafter General Malik, when a war takes place, the country also is united. And the kind of enthusiasm and the kind of josh which is there is dramatic, it is quite high, everybody's for the same cause. And I remember as a child, I was probably a 5-year-old, but I have these vague memories of blackouts in 1971. And my mother used to go to the kitchen with a torch, I remember, and she would heat the milk with that minimum of lighting so that the blackout would not be violated. So society has been through so many tough times, wars, etc. And here we are in the middle of a pandemic. It has been 4 months. It may take a few more months, but times will change. We will come out of it. It is a time to test our mettle and test whether we are resilient enough and sensible enough to tide over this crisis. So over to you, Vipinji, for your opening remarks and introduction, and then we can move on to General Malik.
Thank you, Vivek ji. I'm very privileged to be here and talking to General Malik and yourself. In fact, General Malik and I go back a long time. The first meeting was perhaps when he was commanding the 8th Mountain Dip, and subsequently I was posted in Assam at that time, and subsequently in Jalandhar he was commanding the 11th Corps. Subsequently, he went over to the Southern Command to head it, and finally as Army Chief. And even as Army Chief, I had the privilege to see him. I couldn't meet him during that period. It was a very, very hectic period. And that is an enduring memory that I still have, is of the Leh airfield. I was there at the airfield myself, and I find General Malik, suddenly he was the Chief of Staff at that time. He and Air Chief Marshal at that time, Hipness, both of them together and discussing things, on the tarmac. It was the height of Kargil battle at that time, and he was there. I was also leading a small platoon of mine, a platoon of reporters. And we were there in Kargil for a long time. And some of those reporters who were there with me have made good names for themselves. So I had known him for quite some time. And therefore, I thought that the topic that you have chosen, I think there could not be a better man for it, because I have never seen him, hassled. It's been always, he's been cool as a cucumber. So resilience is something that, I think he can best speak about. And we would love to certainly hear something about resilience from General Malik. Well, I would, as Vivek just said, maybe the first question could be, how do you keep yourself that cool? And you have passed through such crises, and you have led the country to a victory. That 1.5, 2 or 3 months were very, very tough. How were you able to handle that situation when entire country was looking towards you?
Thank you, Vipin. Thank you, Vipin and Vivek. I think we've chosen the right subject today, and a very important subject today. And the key word in that is resilience. Now, when we talk of resilience, we are not talking of only individuals, but also we are talking of as a society, as an organization, because as a nation, as a civilization, I must say that India is a great civilization, and we have survived thousands and thousands of years primarily because of the resilience that we have amongst the Indians, whether they belong to North or East or South. I mean, here is a great example when we talk of the nations of the world and the civilizations of the world. I'll come to the question that you have raised earlier, but I just want to indicate to you, there is a book written by Paul Stoltz. I think he wrote this book 1997 or 98. And I would say that's a book which is relevant for all our youngsters, particularly youngsters and young people. And the name of the book is Adversity Quotient. Now, he explains adversity quotient, or AQ, as a score which measures the ability of a person to deal with adversities or challenges in one's life. And as I said earlier, it holds good for both individuals as well as the organization that you may be working in, or the society that you may be working in. And it's a very important, I would say, attitude. It's a response to the challenges, because if you cannot get up after falling down, you are nowhere at all. So as far as we are concerned, in the army, we are concerned, well, we get these lessons all the way from the time we joined the academy. And you go through tough times, you fall. I mean, I still remember once while I was in the National Defense Academy, and we were going out for a long march with all the equipment and everything was there. I fell down, I fainted for a short while. But then, everybody else was with you. So we had a great team spirit, etc. And they all made sure that I completed that whole thing. These are the kind of exercises, the kind of challenges in life you go through. And what you said is right. Kargil was a great challenge, not only for us, but I would say for the entire Indian Army, and as far as the nation is concerned. The challenges that we had, lack of ammunition, the terrain that we were, and nobody knew whether they were Pakistan army people or they were militants. The intelligence agencies were telling us that these are jihadis and all. So all kinds of, as we say, fog of war was there. The Prime Minister himself once told me, he says, I can't believe that they can do this, because only 2 months earlier, he had signed Lahore Declaration with Nawaz Sharif. So these challenges were there. And as far as the armed forces and army is concerned, well, the buck stopped at my table. I had to take it on. And another story I must tell you here, when I briefed the cabinet first time. I think that was on 23rd of July, 23rd of May, sorry. And everybody had long faces. People knew by this time that we were in thick soup, absolutely. So somebody asked me, he says, what will be the name of your operation? So seeing everybody's face, I said, we will call it Operation Vijay. And I said, I'm quite certain that at the end of it, the Vijay will be ours. And this is what I told the Prime Minister. Mind you, I can't tell you what was going on in my own mind, but there was no question of my showing a long face or my showing any difficulties. I said, don't worry, the Vijay will be ours, and that's why I'm naming this operation Operation Vijay. So these are the kind of challenges that you face. But as I said, it's your attitude. You have to develop these things, and these things can be developed throughout your life. We can start off, I mean, as a child falls through. A good mother will let the child stand up on its own, on his or her own. But a weak mother will go run and pick up the child, and kya ho gaya, all sorts of things that she will say. So I would recommend that resilience is something which can be learned, you can train yourself, and you should go through. There is absolutely no question of not being able to stand up. In our life, somebody said, "Mushkilon ka naam part of life hai." It is part of life. Mushkilon ka naam part of life hai. Unme se hanskar nikalna is art of life, and that is an art you can develop yourself. Over to you.
Very good, sir. Excellent thoughts. Very nice. In fact, it is very true that it is the art of life that we go through these ups and downs. What you told us about Operation Vijay and how you thought of naming it because of the long faces is a wonderful story. I think it's very exciting for us to listen to that. And of course, India came out victorious, and we are very proud of that fact. And it is India has gone through so much. If we look at it over the centuries, you mentioned it, General Malik sir. You basically, we must understand how much India has been battered and tormented for years and centuries. And women also, if you look at it in society, have been at the receiving end of so much. If you look at women in society, they are so much more resilient, if I may say so. This is a men's panel, but then men. And they have actually been through sacrifice and tough times and had to lie awake at night, perhaps, with the children, had to cook, had to look after the fields. I am from Haryana, and in Haryana, it is said that even today, the woman goes to the field, the woman does the housework, the woman looks after the children, the woman does all the labor, and the man sits and smokes his hookah and discusses politics with his friends and plays cards also. It may be an exaggeration, but it is reflective of the fact that our society, maybe its strength lies in the female folk. So I would like Vipinji and General Malik, both of you, to comment on this, and how much of a role do the ladies have in this resilience that we need? Vipinji.
Thank you, Vivekji. I mean, it goes without saying, I've been always believing in it that women have much more resilience, much more patience, much more discipline, and much more organized. There is, no comparison about it. And perhaps this pandemic has shown more people the light in that sense. So that is no doubt we have to learn quite a lot. It is in their nature. I mean, affection, love, and resilience, certainly the most. So I would say there are great things to be learned. Over to you, General Malik.
General Malik, sir, would you like to add?
Yeah, first thing I want to tell you, you are from Haryana. I think the sports women have brought more medals to Haryana and India than sportsmen from Haryana. Am I right?
Absolutely,
Right.
sir.
So, you are right, absolutely, both of you, that women play a very important role in developing resilience and developing this positive attitude. And there is no doubt that I gave you an example of how when the child starts walking or when their child is doing, a good mother will always make the child stand up on the feet. And then we have in our own history, look at the examples that we have, Rani Jhansi, of the Rajput women, now look at these girls in the army, for example, I can tell you. And what I have seen of the girls in the army, they are doing a tremendous job. Once I remember, they had just come in. We had only a few girls that time in the army, a few hundred only. And we were doing a major exercise in desert, in Barmer area. And I took George Fernandez, who was the defense minister, with me. So we went to a Corps headquarters signal operations room. From there, they controlled all the signal communication to different parts. It was a biggish sort of affair. And as we entered, the officer in charge was a young woman. She came, saluted. And so George Fernandez looking at me, and he said, "Who's she?" I said, "Sir, she's the officer in charge of this communication setup here, and she's controlling it from this particular ops room." I mean, setup means that ops room that she had, she was in charge of that. So they have a lot of capability, and if we can develop this amongst all our women, I mean, as it is that they have it, but wherever it is lacking, we have to encourage them. We have to make them resilient. We have to make them be able to stand on their own feet and guide others also. If you do that, I have no doubt about it that it is going to impact the society much more than some people like us trying it, are telling these stories. So they play a very major role of bringing in that resilient attitude amongst their children and people who are around them.
I must say the army started a little late. Army started a little late in that, but I'm very happy that permanent commission is being now offered to them. So that's been good. But as far as my profession is concerned, I must say it's one of those professions where you have more females, and they're doing exceedingly well, and they are breaking the glass ceiling, whatever existed there.
Right.
For instance, my two predecessors are females and absolutely brilliant. Nirupma Subramanian and Nauman Raj Garewal. Totally brilliant persons. So I think they're breaking ceilings, and given the opportunity, they can do wonders.
I totally agree. And in fact, the next point comes from there. What I would just throw light on is that this is an era where we are more comfortable than at any time in history. If you look at it, the quality of life with technology, with communication, with even things like air conditioning, which may or may not be good for health, there are debates. But there are so many ways in which mankind has progressed. And we have children now who are growing up in these times of air conditioning and mobile phones, and a 2-year-old gets the phone and then grows up and orders a Mac burger or whatever it is. So times have become quite easy if you look at it in normal times, when at the press of a button or a click of a button, society is able to satisfy the desire of this young person. Especially if we look at the youngsters who have not seen adversity, and suddenly something like this comes along in 2020, which is basically, if you look at it, also perhaps a divine warning that the world is not going the way it should, the environment is not being protected the way it should, and we are probably moving too much towards materialism and consumerism. So if you look at it, this particular challenge is the first challenge that this millennial generation has faced, and also maybe the 30-something, 40-something has never probably, and even if I may add 50-something, has not really faced this kind of challenge. So have we become, as even a urban society of India, if you look at it, as opposed to the rural society, have we become softies? And have we got that guts and that resilience to handle this? Now, some people are actually panicking without reason. I mean, in the sense that they are at home, they are safe, but they are panicking more than others just because something is going on in the world. Whereas those who are level-headed, cool, and tough enough, they are able to handle the crisis. So this also becomes a mental crisis, if I may put it. So, General Malik, I'll be very eager to hear your thoughts on today's generation and how they can be more resilient.
Vivek, I think you have brought in a very important issue today. And I'm an old-fashioned, old-age man, but and also old-fashioned in some of these things, who has gone through rough times. I came from a family which lost everything during partition when we migrated to India in 1947, and so risen from there, and have seen tough days. Also in my life, I have seen tough days because of the army background. One has been posted in Ladakh. 1962 to 64, I was in Ladakh. Those days, it was a total virgin territory, so to say. So, yes, to some extent, what you are saying is that these comforts that we give to the children, give them money and not checking them when they are doing something wrong. I think that is something which probably needs to be looked after. One thing good I see amongst the children is that they are all becoming techno savvy, which is a good thing. In fact, I learned those things from my grandchildren today, so which is a very good thing, and that is how it should be. But when it comes to physical fitness part of it, although now I've noticed that there is a slight improvement. You find younger people going out for run, are going to the gyms, and looking after their health, that part. And I would always say that health-wise is very important with the kind of pandemics that you have. If you can look after your health, so that is the best cure for anything, and you become you cannot catch these things. So I would say that it is a responsibility of the parents, frankly. Even if you have money, don't give them total freedom. And in this society, what hurts me, or what worries me most, is that these children of the netas, today you find those stories about how these children behave, all of them running around in the Mercedes cars, other cars, and kind of accidents that are drinking and all that. So I think these are the kind of things which are noticeable today, and the role is really of the political leadership both as a leader as well as parents, and similarly people who are well off, who are rich. I mean, it's all right to have the money, but it doesn't mean that you let the children go wrong. All children, all school children, college students, they must go through certain rigors. Otherwise, they will not be resilient. So for a society, not only for individuals, but also for a society, it is important that we enable our children to go through these rough stages of life and help them to get up if they need help. That is, I think, an important point that you have raised, and that is how I feel about it.
We have a former army officer, Colonel Chima, who's put it very well. He says, Kakas and SUVs are a deadly combination. Kakas and SUVs are a deadly combination. So, Vipinji, you have some more ideas and questions?
Yeah, I would like to also point out, this has been a very, very tough period, and in particular for the youth. Since these days I am also dealing with youth, with students, the school pass outs and all, and remaining at home for 3 months, because I keep interacting with them. I know they're dying to come back to the campus. They say anytime, just allow us to get into the campus. And I must say, there are several students who were actually earlier not attending classes. They were in the campus not attending classes, but now they say they're going to be very serious, and particularly serious about studies, and they would like to get back into the campus. But I also find that there's a bit of frustration also building up among a section of students, because it's just a time for them when they wanted to fly out, meet, mingle around and all that, but certainly they have to be in their homes and all that. So that is a very tough time, and I think we as educators, also as parents and everyone, should take particular care at this particular time to see that they come out of this period and become more resilient. So that is one thing I wanted to point out. And then digressing a bit, because although I've met General Malik a number of times over seminars, conferences, and all that, but there was one question which has recently started rankling me, and that was, we all know that Kargil was first war that was brought to our drawing rooms, thanks to the media, thanks to the electronic channels and all that. And so that was the first war that people were watching every day. What are the developments? Otherwise, in 71 and 65 and all that, the media wasn't allowed that much. So I wanted to ask General Malik. He was the person who was leading the army, and permission given to media could not have been given unless he had okayed. So there was no precedent such that the media is there right on the battlefront. So how confident you were? I know there were some mistakes also. One or twice we were also put people on rest, but it was a learning experience. Yet to allow media to have pretty clear access to a battlefield, what prompted you to do that?
Vipin, firstly, I must tell you that although people keep telling me about it, that I was the army chief that time. Yes, I was heading the army, that's a fact. But the credit for winning the war really goes to the frontline soldiers, the young officers, the men, and the women who were there, that time.
Yes.
So that.
I think there's a connection problem with General Malik Bipinji, so we can continue, maybe come back soon. So I have another thought.
Yeah.
I have another thought which we'll put to him also. That, in some countries, 2 years of army service is compulsory actually. And in some countries, it is 1 year. And here, even NCC is not compulsory. I mean, if you look at it, NCC, which is NSS, NCC, these kinds of things in colleges and schools, they actually add to the character of the children as they're growing up. And they're also great levelers. Somebody who has come from that popcorn, burger, Coke, and mobile phone kind of background, which almost everybody is, suddenly as an NCC cadet, he has to go to the field and do things. I think that builds a bit of toughness. So do you think we can actually introduce compulsory at least 1 year NCC or 2 years NCC for everybody?
Yes, in fact, I have a background of being a student of Rashtriya Military School, so I know the kind of the discipline they inculcate, the habits they inculcate. So similarly, services like NCC or NSS, I must say that they provide a lot of discipline. You go to the camps, you stay with the all kind of students everywhere, and a lot of discipline can be inculcated. So I am actually in favor of compulsorily making NCC certainly for everyone, if not making it compulsory for everyone to join the army or armed forces for a period of say a year or so, like say Israel or several other countries they do. So I favor at least to begin with NCC must be made compulsory for all.
General Malik, I think you had a connection problem, now you're back.
I'm back. Thank you.
The light on your face is even better than before, so I must compliment you on that. So we had, while you were talking, we discussed a little point, and you would like to continue with what you were saying. But just to add to one more point, we were talking about the fact that in some countries, military service is compulsory for 2 years or 1 year. 1 year that builds resilience, toughness, fitness, discipline. But here, even NCC is not compulsory. And at least some NCC should be compulsory for schools and colleges. What do you think? These 2 points, the previous one and this one.
Yeah, the first point is about the entry of media into the field. Something that in that operation, I knew that we cannot help it. There is only one road which goes from Zojila all the way to Srinagar, all the way to Kargil and Leh. Now that has traffic both for the civilian as well as military, and you cannot stop the life of the civilians by blocking that road or making it exclusive for the military. So that was one challenge that we had, that you can't sort of ask media to get down or to herd it together. You can't do these kind of things. So the only restriction that I said was that wherever there is fighting going on, the shelling going on, don't let them go. But otherwise, if they want to, the other important thing, the importance of media is that when you are fighting a war, you have to tell your people that you are fighting for a righteous cause. Only then they will follow you. It is also important for you to convey that message to the international community that what I am doing is right, as you say, righteous war. The Mahabharata teaches you, the Arjun, the Pandavas, they fought a righteous war, and that is how they were able to win against the Kauravas, whose armies were much larger. So it could be helped, and of course we made some mistakes. So did the media. It was a learning experience. At the end of it, I think the media helped us in getting the full support, not only in the domestic with our domestic people within the country, but also outside the country. Media plays an important role, and as you know today, information war has become an important adjunct of warfare. Coming to the second, the other question about more people joining the army. It is a sad thing that today, not the NCC also, which we had, somehow people are not encouraging NCC. I am not in favor of everybody wanting to do, or everybody being permitted to do conscription, or that's kind of a service. I think it hasn't really worked for any democratic country. And people who had longer service, compulsory service, they had to gradually reduce it. And many of them have now gone for the voluntary service by giving some other benefits, etc., and thus attracting the young people into the armed forces. So with that kind of an experience, and in India, we have a large number of people. It is not the number that it's not the quantity, but it's the quality that you are wanting to have that. And that quality can come from Sainik School or from the NCC. Now, unfortunately, NCC, the government of India pays 50% expenditure, and the remaining 50% expenditure has to come from the state governments. And I find there are many states who are reluctant to pay even that much. And that is how you do not have a larger number of boys and girls joining the NCC. And so, you have to spend money, you have to keep them, take them out for the camps, you have to give them military training. All that requires money. And unless you have the money given for this kind of an organization, I do not know whether it would be possible for us to have everybody, all the students go through that. But NCC is an important training ground for our young people. And I would always recommend that. It's always a pleasure when I meet ex-NCC students come up to me and they say, "Sir, you were the chief when I participated in the Republic Day parade or any other function like that." It's always it gives you tremendous, feeling of pride in those children. So I would always recommend boys and girls joining NCC whenever they get the opportunity.
Yes, sir. In fact, very well said, and it's a very true point. We have about 10 minutes, so I'm going to spend 5 minutes on this next point, which I'm just raising with you, sir, and with Mr. Pabbi, and we'll also take a couple of questions. So all these very good comments which are coming and compliments which are coming, if you have some questions as well, please let us know. We'll answer those questions. The next point I want to raise is about the level of cynicism in society. When we talk of resilience, you need people with some kind of positive attitude, and we need people who are not cynical. And whereas what is happening in society today, if you look at it, there are people who will, even the virus, let's talk of the virus. The virus comes, some news comes, and then on WhatsApp, I'll say something like, let's hope we meet in a month from now, things should be better. Suddenly I'll get a message saying, no, 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 this virus will not go away for another 1.5 years. How do you think we can meet? So then everybody, I mean, there are two types of people. And there was a film called The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, which I often quote. He says, there are two types of people, those that come through the door and those that come through the window, which he didn't, that was on the lighter side. But if you look at it, the cynic and the positive realist, let's call him, the person who has resilience is obviously someone who's trying hard to combat the situation mentally as well as physically. And around him, if people are just, this is not okay, that is not okay, this is going to collapse, the world will come to an end, this pandemic will, kill so many people. So, what is the human attitude, and how can we, as a think tank, as opinion makers, as the fashionable word nowadays is influencers, how can we kind of get together to raise the level of optimism, positive thinking in the society, which will naturally contribute to resilience? So, first General Malik, then Mr. Pablis.
You're right. I come across many people who are cynics or who become, looking at things in a passive manner and all. I always call them Dukhi Atma. So at home, I say so and so is a Dukhi Atma number one, number two, like that. But yeah, there are many Dukhi Atmas, and obviously, they don't realize that. Challenges come and challenges go, but you have to overcome them. There is absolutely no alternative. And in any case, you must have that kind of strength to go through. Let me give you another example, which is not from my field, from the armed forces. Give you an example of Amitabh Bachchan.
Yes.
Now, if you recall, in 2000, year 2000, when we were welcoming the new century, so to say, this man, he went totally broke.
Yes.
He had a company called ABCL, which collapsed, and he had no money to pay taxes. Even his house was being taken over by the income tax or ED department, whatever these people are. And he had, and incidentally, even the job wise also, acting wise also, he went through that huge dip in his career at that time. And yet today you see where he is. So, and mind you, he also suffered health-wise. We all know that. And despite all that handicap that he suffered because of his health and because of these other things, look at where he is today. So, I think we have to, those cynics who are amongst us, I think it becomes our responsibility then to take them on and to tell them that, look, don't be silly, and these things come and go, and surely we can. I mean, that I think again is not only an important job of the leaders, and everybody is a leader. We are not talking of only the top leaders and all. All of us in some field or the other. At home, if I have two, three people working under me, I am also their leader. So I'm just giving that kind of example. It is our responsibility then to raise their spirits and to keep telling them that, look, these things come and go. It doesn't mean that we just bend down and remain there. That will not happen. It should not be done. I would say that is our responsibility, all of us who have gone through this kind of experiences, and it is important responsibility for all of us.
Absolutely. Vipinji also asked about parents also. You could have mentioned parents in your response also. As parents also, what can we do? Vipinji.
Yeah. General Malik has given a most appropriate example of Amitabh Bachchan coming, just from almost zero. At one stage, as he rightly pointed out, his house was being sold, everything, he was in a dire strait. And then he came back and bounced back in a big way. I think he's a real hero and real life too. So I think this malice, I would say, is actually increasing, the cynicism, and particularly because of social media also, this has increased quite a lot. So there are lots of people who with this negative thoughts, and they try to see only the darker side and not the brighter side of things that are happening. And as you rightly said, I think it is basically the parents and the educators and people who are coming in touch with them in our own small leadership positions, as you said, in a household or anywhere else, in a class, in an educational institution or any office or anything. I think people need to look at it more at a more positive angle, and they must radiate that positiveness. I think that is very, very, very essential. And I think all responsible people must take care that whatever they are emitting, it is positivity or negativity that travels. So they must be positive and make others also. Not positive for coronavirus, but positive in the thoughts.
I think
these days positivity and this is very it just works.
I think they need to change the terminology there and say corona infected instead of coronavirus. Anyway, you can't change. Even social distancing seems to be the wrong term. Now they are saying physical distancing. So anyway, these things will also evolve. But Vipinji, for you, I have a question which is important, and I'll also seek General Malik's comments on that after that. And that is to do with the media. We are talking about the social media, but the electronic media largely, and the print media to a little bit of an extent. That whole negativity that is there in the country also depends to a large extent on what we listen to. And TV debates are not like this Suvichar debate, if I may say it very blatantly. This Suvichar debate hopefully has uplifted the morale of people. And TV debates are probably meant to inform and give news, but they're also probably meant to break the morale of people, it seems, because people who listen to TV debates become more cynical. So what is the role of the media?
Yeah, I just cannot defend electronic media. One is good that I was not a part of electronic media, but even I can't stand it. And I know most people can't stand it. And therefore, the TV debate or news or whatever, there's hardly any news. That is a dying medium. People are just refusing to say it. All they want to say is a little bit of drama. And we have people like Arnab Goswami and all that, who just create drama, who get angry at nothing and just explode. And I keep telling my journalism students, here is what you should not do. If you become a journalist, this is what you must not. So there is no defense of these TV channels. They have actually, I would say, badnaam kar diya hai media ko entire, because we were rather respectable in our print media particularly, and most of the print media is quite balanced out, although they have some their biases and all that. But print media, this electronic media has just taken us to such an extreme. And I think slowly, as the medium is dying, there will be more people getting onto digital media, which will be like the way we are here right now, and people would depend more on those kind of things. So there is just nothing to defend the electronic media.
General Malik, sir, anything on this?
Yeah, although Vipin is the expert on media, I'm not. But one thing I must say, that the fact is that electronic media today impacts our public much more, because more people see that. And although I agree with you that it is very shallow in its approach on the subject, etc. There's no depth, there's no proper detailed analysis. But the fact is that is what is being watched by people who are educated, less educated, not educated, by those people. So it is making an impact. And the problem is that every media channel is supposed to first see whether they are giving out the correct news or not. And secondly, when the anchors are moderating that, the anchors have to be balanced, and they have to be moderator and not going from one extreme to the other. They are not expected to go polarize the debate, So the whole word is moderator. And I find that those who are moderating it in a moderate fashion, the anchors, they do well. And they come out with the correct news, and then they analyze whatever people are saying. So, yes, I know, some people are going wrong, some people are doing well, and I hope people learn from those who are doing well rather than those who are not doing that well. Social media is, again, because social media has given accessibility to everyone. Again, somebody who's informed, not informed, or well informed, everybody has got access to that. And I'm on Twitter, for example. I mean, I see a lot of comments which are there. Sometime to whatever I write on that also comments, but I find that, well, I comment when I think it is correct or it is important. I don't make fun of people. I'm not sarcastic. I hope not. I'm not sarcastic, and I put it across in a moderate fashion. And when somebody wants to get into a stupid debate, I just refuse to get into a debate. So these are again evolving attitudes that we all have by the media, towards the media, and hopefully these things will get corrected in time.
I think the sum and substance of what we've been discussing is that society needs to act in a mature fashion. Individuals need to act maturely, emotional maturity, emotional intelligence, thinking of the bigger picture rather than being bogged down by passing phases, and also spreading a lot of good thoughts, positivity. As General Malik said, everybody is a leader, and everybody needs to has influence over others. So if those leaders, even if they are parents, they are able to keep their wits about themselves and remain resilient, then society can handle any crisis, including this crisis, which I strongly believe will not remain for much longer. And hopefully, in a few months, we will be fine. So, handing over to Vipinji and then General Malik for your closing remarks, please.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. In fact, I would like to recall an incident that is one of the proud moments I had, and that reflects the resilience. And this relates to the year 2001, January 26th, that is the Republic Day, and it happened in Gujarat, where I was the editor in Ahmedabad. And I think many of you would have guessed that 26th of January 2001 was when the great earthquake came in Bhuj. And Ahmedabad and half of Gujarat was also affected very badly. So 26th January is one of those very few days, 2 or 3 days in a year when there are no newspapers, but the newspaper offices are closed on 26th of January. So 25th night we said, okay, we'll meet on 27th unless the heavens fall. And that's what happened on 26th. It was all a complete holiday. And on 26th, this earthquake took place, and there was no staff and all that. That is the time, I think, that's the time when leadership and resilience that counts. So we decided that for such a thing that we have to bring out an edition, even if it's a holiday, everyone has to be there. So me, manager, and other people from the editorial and others, we all contacted our own staff and said that it's a holiday, but it's something that people must know what's happening and all that. So we must come together. And there you go. We were one of the rare papers which came out the next day and carrying all details and all that. Almost everyone was in the newspaper office at that time. So that, I think, is one instance which is unforgettable. And I'm very proud that I led the team at that time.
Wonderful. General Malik.
Yeah, I think what I would like to now convey a message to all the youngsters, particularly young people, those students and young others, young people, that, whatever we are doing, you identify a goal for yourself, go for it. And in that, remain flexible, because challenges will come. You will go up and down. It's not always that to achieve it, hanging fruit, you go and pick it up. It doesn't happen. So life is like that. Go through all that and be resilient. Stand up when you have to, when you fall down, when you bend down. That has to be in you. That is what is resilience. And if you have that, you can be a good leader also subsequently. So with that, I would again mention what I said earlier. Mushkilon ka aana is part of life. Mushkile aayengi, whatever you are doing, everywhere. And unme se bahar nikalna is art of life. So learn that as an art of life, which is important.
Wonderfully well said, sir. What a pleasure it has been. This discussion has been very uplifting, very motivating for all of us. And I think to have shared the panel with General BP Malik is always a pleasure, whether virtually or actually. And if I can recall that the last time we met, sir, was at my book launch where you were the chief guest, and your speech that day was as inspiring as today. Thank you so much for joining us on this Suvichar debate and discussion and panel. And we will go on organizing such discussions for the betterment of the thought process in society. I think this video will reach a lot of quarters. They will take inspiration from it. I thank you once again, General Malik, for joining us. And I thank Mr. Vipin Pabi, who's always so cheerful, pleasant, full of positive thinking. And I think the three of us, at least, we can humbly say that we are not contributing to any cynicism in the society and only to good thoughts and positive thinking. Thank you, sir, and thank you, Mr. Pabi.
Thank you, Vipin. Thank you,
very
Vivek.
much.
Pleasure to be on the panel with you all. Thank you.